As the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and one of his top advisors, Steve Bannon, hash out their differences, another top advisor has made his way up the chain of command and now could become a key middleman between the White House and Congress. Charlie Gasparino, the name.
I can do a Gary Cohn story once a day. I just love doing Gary Cohn story. He's kind of tough and nasty looking. He used to run Goldman Sachs.
Nasty looking.
He's like, look at him. He's like, I'm gonna rip your lungs out. You know,
oh, that kind of nasty.
If you don't trade, make a right trade.
Former Goldman Sachs president.
Number two there. Here's what we know is that Cohn is increasingly taking a center stage in the Trump legislative effort. Cohn, our sources are telling me, this is sources inside the White House, is now working Capitol Hill. Also, sources on Capitol Hill are saying this, on the Trump infrastructure plan. So he is essentially going to various players within Capitol Hill to try to work out, try to get some consensus on what they should do in terms of how much and how it will be implemented, the infrastructure plan, which is somewhat controversial. Here's why. Donald Trump, the president, likes it. Gary Cohn, who's, I guess, a Democrat, would like it. They like spending and Keynesian spending ideas. Republicans on Capitol Hill would rather see a tax cut. So there's a degree of sales that's going to have to go here with this infrastructure plan. And it's obviously, we don't have much details on it other than one plan, as we reported yesterday on your show. One thing that they're thinking about is some sort of a forcing companies to bring back their profits overseas, repatriate the profits, taxing them not at 35%, but at a discounted rate, like 10%, and some of that money being used for infrastructure in terms of an infrastructure. Right. So I think Gary.
You send a message that big companies are the ones that will pay into.
Yeah, they'll be. This will not just be government spending. This will be big companies,
taxpayer spending.
Or yes, taxpayer. It'll be companies as they repatriate that money at the lower rate, having to give some of it to it. It sounds like an interesting plan to me. But from what we understand, Gary Cohn is leading a lot of this effort. Now, why do we care about this process story? Because, again, it tells you about who's winning and who's losing inside the White House. Cohn is part of the liberal or Democratic contingent of the Trump administration run by Jared Kushner, his son-in-law. Steve Bannon is part of that nationalist or more right-wing contingent who's losing. And policy now will reflect that. And if you see, based on the conversation you just had between Ellis and Tammy Bruce,
right.
Ellis Hennigan.
He softened on NATO.
He softened on NATO, China.
Trade wars.
Trade wars. So, and trade wars was something that, or at least getting tough on trade was something that Steve Bannon pushed a lot. And we're going to see, I guess, we're going to see essentially where he comes out on taxes pretty soon. Again, we're getting a lot of mixed signals. We hear the corporate tax cut could be off the table in favor of this repatriation scheme. So you don't get the big 15% corporate tax cut from 30. You get this instead, repatriate money at a lower rate. That's not a corporate tax cut. We don't know where individual tax cuts are. The president himself has signaled that, who knows what we're going to get tax cuts, how big we can do it, because we haven't done health care. We need to do health care. So, and it may be delayed past August. So there's a lot of moving parts here. Some of it is because of policy. You can't do tax cuts without health care. Some of it is because the liberals are increasingly in charge of the Trump White House, at least in terms of the advisory infrastructure.
I would call them centrists, maybe.
No, I think Gary Cohn's a liberal. I mean, no, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. Some of my best friends are liberals, but I'm telling you.
Charlie, thank you. We got to go. We got to run. I'm so sorry. I'm giving him the hook because the markets are falling 109 points, and Charlie had said, they want a tax cut.
They don't like bombs.
I'm worried. I think that it's the bomb that works.
Do you know that? No. If they're saying spending too much time on bombs, we want to hear tax cuts. That's what they're saying.
We will be right back.